Gentlemen, if you'd like to take your seats, please, we'll get the meeting on the road.
So, they still want me to be Santa Claus.
Oh, right. I remember I got an outfit and raced up to Kempsey and was there at about 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Give the grandchildren a fright with Santa Claus arriving.
Oh, really?
Right.
I'm not doing the computer.
Welcome to meeting number 1215.
What's all this?
The President, unfortunately, isn't here to open the meeting. He's one of the apologies, as he's tied up with work-related matters, so he won't be here. So just to save time, I'll do it. So we have apologies from Les Carlisle, David Mee, Ian Sizeland, Jim and Chanel Noble, Colin and Sandy Pitchfork, Bob Clemson, Ron Bolden, Joe Detling, Marie Brad, Matthew Lloyd and John Veltmeyer. So the apologies outnumber the number of us here. Luckily we've made double figures, so that's pretty good. General business. There is a printed program here on the front table going up to January next year, so feel free to take one if you think you need one. I know someone like Pat isn't on the computer and doesn't get emails, so he won't be bombarded by my weekly emails
That's too handy.
ad infinitum. But you know, just take them so you know the topics next year. The other matter I have here is the Coffs Harbour Conference. We have it planned. It was delayed in June this year, and we have it planned for the Queen's birthday next year, which is the 12th and 13th of June 2021. I will be contacting everyone to see who plans on attending, because unless we can get a decent number there, it's really not worth the effort holding it. Now, you know, I'm sort of debating what the sort of minimum number is. You know, if we get, say, 15 or so, it's sort of getting to borderline. But 20 is a better sort of cut-off. If you can get 15 and all 15 are giving a talk, great. But other than that, but I think we might have trouble getting 20. But we'll see. So in the new year, I will contact the Sanctuary Resort and just establish with them that they're going to keep the same prices that they quoted us for this year, so that I know how much to charge everyone for the conference fees. The conference fees just cover the charges, because they used to charge us $150 a day for the hire of the conference hall, plus you have the morning tea and lunch packages and the Saturday night dinner package as well. So you build that all in, plus the conference medals. So once you build that all in, we then charge those who attend an amount to try and cover that cost. So we'll see. Next item is recent acquisitions. Does anybody have a recent acquisition? Please.
Yeah, on general business.
Yeah, it's general business.
Tony James is still doing his pop-up shop, and it's going to continue till the 15th of January.
Where is it?
Fridays and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's 243 Glebe Point Road, near the corner of Bridge Road.
Right.
And apparently it's a shop that they open. So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll leave
Good.
it there anyway.
And Frank has something.
Well, this was just a spur of the moment purchase. It's the Powerhouse Museum's Patrons Medallion.
Ah, don't see those very often.
No, but the first one was to Renison Goldfields consolidated, and it's in a beautiful lined presentation box and whatever, if you can see that one.
You see
We haven't got a screen.
at home.
No,
Get
we
out.
didn't bother with the screen because, except for this,
Yeah.
there's nothing to show, but
Right.
I will put it on the table and everyone can have a look at it.
So it was produced by Charles Hewitt Foundry at Paddington. The patron medal represents the enormously successful drive for private funding for the wait, I'll get this out of order or something.
This one was presented to James Hardy Industries.
Yeah, and unfortunately for something like that, it's terribly knocked around, I thought myself. It's scratched and dinged and whatever. So
When was it struck?
in 1984. But this only talks about the one to Renison Goldfields. The patron's medal was cast by Charles Hewitt at his foundry in Sydney from brass, finished with a frosted appearance. In February 1983, the Powerhouse Museum launched its Patrons of the Powerhouse program under the chairmanship of Fred Miller, CBE, and with the enthusiasm and drive of Leo Schofield. In other words, probably in between rings, I'd say. It was created to generate funds to develop a collection in time for its opening of the bicentennial in 1988. It proved very successful, generating more than $1 million and being directly responsible for funding the acquisition of such significant items as the Regency Egyptian Revival chairs of Thomas Hope, the Minton Majolica Peacock, and the stained glass window by Edward Burne-Jones. That's in the annual report of 1984-86. Such an initiative went some way in reducing the overall budget at the time of the patron program, estimated at $34.5 million for the building and $28.5 million for the exhibitions. Two hierarchies were created among the patrons, being founding patrons gave $25,000 and patrons $10,000. Renison Goldfields were founding patrons who contributed a donation in the lots of $5,000 between 82 and 86. Well, if you realise back in that time, that was a pretty fair sum. I mean, today it's probably not even their tea money. There were 37 founding patrons that contributed a total of $925,000, an impressive figure, especially in mid-1980s purchasing power. In November 84, a function was held in stage 1 for patrons and their families. It was then the patron medals, including this example, were, well, not this one, the Renison Goldfields one, was presented. Now, following through, apparently this Charles Hewitt has retired. I got on his website today. I said he's still available for information, etc. But it puts him under a picture framing business, which apparently was his main business. So I'll send him off an email, but I've had no reply. I was asking, how many were made and who designed it and who did the engraving and whatever. So I've got nothing on that. But, so it was just a spur of the moment. It was only $20, which surprised me. I thought something like that would have a lot more value than that.
Yeah.
But,
Nice item. Thank you. Any other recent acquisitions?
Anybody there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Vote for Peter and myself. Right.
There's a couple of things.
Here's George. Okay.
Yeah, George.
You can sign.
Sign
the book.
We're only small, but about 100 members. But the quarterly magazine that I present, this particular one, I featured the New Zealand banknotes that were used as currency. And
Program for the year. Take one.
the
Have you got a
a
catalogue?
museum in New Zealand was only too pleased to
Convoy auction?
Auction's not tonight,
of some
next
of
month. Auction's next month.
out of their collection.
Did I give you a voting,
They're not in
voting
private.
slip? Yes.
So that's one item. And
Let's
then
display.
there's
Okay.
a reward to members received the, and this has taken years to put together. About 1900, the British postal orders were overprinted in the colonies around the world. And so this is a directory listing all the known ones. Remember Jim's and Bill Myra's Holy Dollar one where we learnt where all the holy dollars were?
Yeah.
Well, this has taken years to compile and covers all the known examples of those. So that went out at great expense. And then Buddy's selling his collection at Grosvenor in London, and sales been put off till early January, middle of January, 22nd of January. And once again, he holds the key re some of these New Zealand notes that were used as currency, especially these ones. And no doubt about them, they're up to 24% buyer's premium. But they were good enough to advertise on our back cover at great expense. And they were willing to send catalogues out to members. So that was pretty good. So there you go.
Thank you, Ross. Right, if there's
Publications, that might
any
stimulate
others,
people, won't it?
if not, we shall go on to the display competition for tonight. We only have 3 displays. They're on the table, 1, 2 and 3. Display 1 is yours, Pat, so if you'd like to stand up and tell us a little bit about your display.
The display is in regard to the First World War. Joseph Cook, who was our Prime Minister from the 24th of June 1913. He declared if the home country is at war, we will be at war with them. That's the first bit was the declaration of the war. At the Simpson and his donkey, they were, Simpson was there on the 25th of April to the 20th of May, or the 15th of May, I think. 20 days he was, that's all he was on the field before he was killed. There were 10 VCs issued for the First World War. Albert Jacka was the first one to receive a VC. It was, they've got a silver and a bronze one. There were 80 silver, there were 80 bronze, 20 silver made of the Albert Jacka one.
Sorry, 20 made of what?
Of the medallion,
Oh.
just the from the thing, made by Victorian Numismatics, 51 millimetres in circumference. And the George Ingram was the one that won the last VC for the First World War. There were 9 Australians and 1 New Zealander that took out the VCs were there. Both Albert Jacka and George Ingram, they have both won military medals, and George Ingram one for bravery, where he took out 60. He captured 62 prisoners at one stage, attacked the machine gun, took the machine gun out, and also captured the 62 from there. It goes along. Sir John Monash, he was eventually come in after we lost so many troops and handled the Australian side of the First World War.
And won it for the Allies.
Won it for the Allies, yep. The war was on the 11th of the 11th, 1918, yeah. We had Armistice Day, Remembrance Day. There's a couple of little medals there in regard to the poppy, and this one here is the last of the 100th anniversary of the end of the World War I, and this is the Versailles Medal, where in France they signed the Treaty of Versailles to end the First World War. Yeah, so that's how it is.
Thank you.
There's reading on both the bits of paper there in regard to the two people who won the VCs. The first one, Albert Jacka, and the last one, George Ingram.
Nice little one.
Right. Whose is number 2?
This is a small group of medalettes that show some of the stages in the production of a commemorative medal. This particular one just happens to be 1980/18. And I list the details of the medal as per Australian Historic Medals by Liz Carlisle. It is listed. It just goes through some of the production processes for the production of a medal. The first three is 3 lead copies of the medal to see what it would look like before it was struck. One has the date 10th of December 87 and then the words before hardening. So they are lead copies of the medal so that they could actually see what the medal was going to look like before it was struck. And I've also added, if you touch them, please watch your hands before eating as they are lead. I don't want you to get lead poisoning. Then you get various processing productions. There's 3 blanks, 1 plain and 2 with raised rims. There's a blank holy dollar format with the centre pierced and 2 blank dumps. Then there's 1 copper medal before the dump is removed, 1 copper medal with a partial removal, but it's still attached, and I assume that one is testing the pressure required to stamp out the dump. Then you get mistakes, such as a copper medal with a dump stamped out off centre. Then there are 4 finished copper medals with the dump removed, but it's not quite centred, and 3 silver medals with the dump removed, but not quite centred. So it just shows some of the production processes required to produce a medal. Thank you.
Through Amor or?
I don't know who produced it. Reverse. No, I can't tell you who produced
Are
it.
they the same size as the original
Of the production medal?
Yes.
Except for lead
the lead
balls.
ones? Yes.
Any other questions?
No, well done.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, Morris. Right. Tony, I think you're number 3.
How did you guess?
It's just intuition, I think.
I think it is something.
Didn't you come with him?
Jump on the tail, you could be part of the collection. Yes, as usual, I thought I'd make it a bit of a change and bring in some tinnies tonight. And I selected these ones for several reasons. Sheilas of Australia, I think I can call them. This is a method of highlighting the extent to which Australia has used this method of raising money for charities. Now, it's really consolidated an area when you think about it. They're using all these girls, and they're sort of they're well known, that they represent areas and themselves, being what part of industry they're in. They're girls, a lot of them are young girls, and of course they're in areas where they're sort of probably going to want to venture into sort of the arts and things like that, and they're sort of beauty queens and the like. And there are quite a number of people, if you look through the names, you get to know. Gladys Moncrief is one of them I can see on here. Joan Sutherland was another one, well known. But this method of raising money, as I've said before, Australia probably is up there, if not the leading country to use this technology, certainly right up there, for using this method of tinnies and the like to raise money for charities. As I've gallivanted around the globe in bits and pieces and looked at badges and so forth, Britain and America and all of them, they do use this technology at the time, but not to the extent that Australia is doing. And so I think it's an area which is could highlight, one of the areas where Australia sort of is quite predominant in this way of doing it, and it's a cheap method of doing it, of course. Now, with these, there are several manufacturers, but you do find the manufacturer's name very lightly around the rim on some. If I said about a third, you might be lucky. Predominantly, I think Patrick's of Summer Hill would be the predominant one, I think, across in Australia. I know there are some South Australian manufacturers, but there's a couple of Withers of Ryde, if you've ever heard of A.E. Patrick's of Summer Hill, they're king of the thing. I would say 9 out of 10 of any badges that I've picked up to sort of highlight who the manufacturers are, it's usually A.E. Patrick's. They also are part of the member of the family's A.W. Patrick. They're a maker in South Australia, but I haven't found too many of those. A.J. Parks of Brisbane is another one that comes up, and G.A. Miller, which is one we know, particularly in a lot of the badges, which of course enamels and the like, element ones. G.A. Miller's of Sydney and Sydney. Now, they're the manufacturers that I've picked up so far. I'm not saying there aren't others, but they're certainly very difficult to predict or to track them down. That's if they've even bothered to put the name on them themselves, which they don't appear to have done in all cases. The predominant sort of size of them are the smaller ones. This one I think is a 21 mils. These ones here at 25 mils. And the other big badges you've seen me sort of produce, the 32mm ones, which are produced a lot in South Australia, they don't seem to have ventured into an area where they've used that size and that technology there to produce badges like this for charities. The badges that they produced, which were quite prolific, were sort of involved more with sort of the military, Red Cross, and some of those areas, rather than using beauty queens and the like to rate this technology. So it's just a difference in the manufacturing of the time. So I don't have any of these sort of 32mm depicting sort of beauty queens and the like raising money for charity. As soon as you say there aren't any, but I haven't been able to track any down. Qualities I've talked about before on these sorts of things can be one of the biggest bugbears around because it's a rusted material tin, and because these were produced pure and simply to raise money, they got discarded. People threw them away, others probably threw them in top drawer and the like. And the ones that have survived, the ones that are at some stage of the game have been put in a tin or put in the top drawer and done. As long as they haven't been able to come in contact with salty conditions, particularly on the coast and the like, and sort of allow air to flow in and out of where they are, they've survived, but the other ones haven't, and they've got very rusty, and when I get them, I just throw them away. What's the point in keeping them, you know? And I'm not going to keep them myself. It detracts from the other ones. People say to me, and a couple of people said to me today, what happens if you pick up a rusty one and you haven't seen it in the 20 years you've been looking for it? I said, well, in that case, I might just put it to one side, hoping to sort of get a better one, but that's all. The others, generally speaking, I would just disregard and get rid of them. And that's the area now. Another question was asked me, do you know what else is out there? Well, I haven't a clue what's out there. I mean, we look at this and think it's quite comprehensive, which dealers tell me this is quite comprehensive. In fact, one dealer told me it's probably a collection of, best of his knowledge, the largest of its type in Australia that he knows of. But that doesn't mean to say there aren't hundreds of others and the like. And I can't help, there's no catalogues to pick up and find out. And I just have to go on sort of sheer experience and what I want about it, what I see and what I pick up. But a lot of fun doing it, and it's most interesting to see the areas that are used. In fact, I lived in Haberfield. My wife was born there, lived most of my life there. There's a Haberfield rowing club just down, below me down today as I was going through them, looking at them closely. There's one there with a Haberfield rowing club raising money for the charity. I thought, fancy that. Just a little old club down there from the waterfront. So that's to the extent that it is done. And so I thought I'd just bring these along, represent them, just show you what's out there, just how many there are. And I can't tell you just how many there could be, but that's my little office display tonight.
Tony, have they got pins behind them?
All have pins behind them. Yep.
And what period were they sold?
Oh, well, these are
Mate.
30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. The values of these, the smaller ones, the 20 ones, are probably mainly sixpence, and you get sixpence, shilling, and 2 bob of these ones here. A lot of them, maybe a third of them have got values on them. Maybe when they were sort of had a display, or they were at a fete or something other than raising money, they were sort of selling to the public whatever the public felt like sort of throwing in a tin or a box or whatever, or maybe taking them for nothing, just pure and simply. So it's sort of funny that there are so many around with actually no values on them at all. So I suppose they're leaving it up to the buyer if they feel like they want to give 5 shillings to one, which is a lot of money in those days. Yeah, fair enough. But that's just part and parcel of the history of it, and I just sort of relate some of them to you tonight.
Tony, are they with coin dealers, or are you saying there's badge dealers, are they?
Well, it's a bit of everything. There's a lot of coin dealers have these bits and pieces here and there. People come in with stuff to sell, nothing I'll stick to one side and sell it. But there are other badge dealers which concentrate mainly on badges, and so it wander around. The other thing, you can go in op shops, and you go in there and there's a little box or something, and you dip through there and pick out the odd one here and there that people have given to them, and so that's another method. But there are badge dealers out there that are doing it. I'm just trying to think of what's his name down there in Melbourne. I forgot his name now. Anyway, and he loves going through my catalogue when he's up here in Sydney, and I go to the thing and I've got my catalogues. He sits down there listening, and he loves going through them all again, you know. So,
Have you
Thank
got
you,
South
Tony.
Australian ones? Are there South Australian ones there?
there's one I know that's a South Australian one.
Try and send a copy to Peter Lane, he'd really appreciate it.
That was the one that was out there. It's A.W. Patrick's, a maker in South Australia. It's the only one that I know of that I've got that's of his. But then, of course, when the celluloid, sometimes it flows around and the metal comes up over it, and you can't see the actual manufacturer's name around the edge in some instances. But a lot of them haven't put them on at all. So it's a hard one to do, yeah. So, yeah, anyway,
Well,
for what it's worth.
I've
Thank you.
seen one of Maisie's Reach from Botany as a beauty queen.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
well, it would have been the 1930s.
30s,
Yeah,
yeah.
a pretty old one.
30s, 40s,
Yeah.
that's a big area.
But we only have 3 contenders tonight, so you've only got a choice of 3. So it's 1, 2 and 3, and put your vote in the cup. So, thank you one and all. With that, I shall close.
One thing I do want to make mention is
So,
that
will you accept postal votes?
We'll have to take them to the courts to see if they're valid. Yes.
I do want to make mention that we lost Hugh Armstrong in the last month.
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was very sad.
Yes. Gentlemen, as Graham has just reminded us, our friend from Queensland and Rockhampton before that, Hugh Armstrong, has passed on. And I would ask you all to please be upstanding for a minute in memory of Hugh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You better turn around on yourself too when you get home.
And one more that we don't need to stand for, but maybe we should. Alan Flint lost his wife.
Oh, right.
You know, I think that was a bit unexpected too. Alan's helped us with an item.
Alan used to be a member
Mm.
years back. Yeah. He actually came to a couple of the conferences and gave some very good papers.
Yeah.
Time of Victoria. Right, well, with that, we shall close this part of the meeting. I'll invite everyone to have a look at the displays. You have a choice of 1, 2 or 3. Put it in the cup and then go and get something to eat. Thank you all.
Yeah, do you guys want me to sort of make the tea now, or do you want to get into the grub first and make the tea halfway through sort of thing, or
Well, I've just put the second kettle on, so
yeah, well, I've just, yeah, right, so we can, if you want to do it straight
Yeah,
away, that's fine.
let's do it straight away, yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, and they're saying, for instance, that the Robert Tonner magnificent collection of New Zealand banknotes, had it been slabbed, that would have gone for a lot more dollars and a lot more of them would have sold. And in fact, there's dealers actually buying bulk lots from Jim's auction and having them slabbed, and like a $20 or $30 item then becomes a $100 item.
Ridiculous.
It really is. It's sad.
But
It
it's-
really is sad.
It's not new. I remember George Casson complaining bitterly that the Greeks were doing that already. They would buy coins or banknotes, send them off to be slabbed, and because they were slabbed, they were. So he died in 2015. So it was already something that was being done. I can't see the point of paying more because it's wrapped in plastic, but I can see why it's being done. George and I had an argument with a couple of younger guys, it must be at least 10 years ago now, and they were into slabbing because when you buy a slab coin on the internet, somebody has graded that coin, somebody who's got nothing to gain from selling it or buying it. cheap or expensive. That person might be wrong, and there's lots of, I'm sure you've all heard of mistakes where, something's been graded very wrongly, or something has been misrepresented in what it is. Whoever was slabbing it didn't really know what they were doing, and they didn't have that particular coin that they thought they had, or banknote. But the thing is that if I slab a note before I sell it, or if I try and sell a raw note, I'm going to say it's, or a raw coin, I'll say it's perfect condition, and I can produce photos to show that that's the case. And if somebody, if somebody's buying, they're not sure what I've done. If they're buying a slab coin on the internet, a third person who's got nothing to gain has made a decision on whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
And if
And
they,
that's why the slabbing will catch on.
Yeah, but see, where
and if
it's
they don't
sad,
agree with the slabbing, they've even broken it open and taken it to another place
Well,
to slab it again.
That's true too.
yeah, well, that's apparently what happens over in America at a typical show. You hear clickety-click, clickety-click all day long. And what people are doing is breaking them out of the slabs and then going and getting them reassessed.
Yeah.
Now, where that even adds to the, well, it's madness. Because what happens then is these firms are keeping records of a particular coin that comes in. Now, I had a rare half sovereign that I showed, one of the deals anyway. And he was saying, oh, get it slabbed. And he said, I'll tell you how many there are of them. And he comes up with, there's only 3 of those in that grade. It had thousands to it.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting at is then somebody's, at times, some of them are being broken up and then re-sent in, so that figure is just, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
I agree. I can't see them. I can't see how slabbing it gives it greater value. And for banknotes, I'd be particularly worried because once you've got paper wrapped up in plastic, I don't think that's, over 20, 30 years, I don't think it's going to do it any good.
Well,
You can't tell the flaws though, through the plastic.
Well, that's the other thing, you can't tell the flaws, that's right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you're buying at a sale, you can pick up the note and it's not slabbed, you can say, oh yeah, you can hold it to the light, you can do whatever, coin, banknote, whatever, and you can see flaws, you can see the condition, and that sort of thing. If you're buying on the internet, you can't do that. You have to buy what's been graded, you have to go by the grading, and if you're going to go by the seller's grading or some third party person's grading, which would you go for?
well, the only slab note that I have is 1988, the
Bicentennial.
10,
Yeah.
that's the only slab note that
Yeah,
I
but
have.
you didn't send it off to be slabbed.
No, I bought it as a slab note.
I bought one cheap slab note just to have one in my collection, so I can say this is what they look like. I haven't bought any others, but I haven't bought notes for a long time, but I prefer to buy what I can see. But I can't go to Athens or London or Pittsburgh, especially now. But I can't go there to have a look at the notes or the coins.
It does increase the volume of your collection considerably though, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you bring an album
Well,
along here with hundreds of lemon notes.
I
How
have
can you do that
a,
when they're slabbed?
Well, you can't, that's right. And the coins are even thicker, but I can see lots of disadvantages.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you're buying off the internet, how can you be sure that the vendor is accurately
You send it back if it's no good.
Yeah, but then hopefully you're never going to need to send it back because some third person that knows what they're talking about, theoretically, has graded it and said this is what it is.
Is it going to protect the item? This is the thing for
Well, it does
deterioration.
If
Is
the
it?
grandkids pick them up and start chewing them, it really doesn't matter if they're inside a slab.
Right.
well, I don't know whether anyone's heard about it. I've got a specimen note at home that the Reserve Bank has in their archives. The thing that concerns me, it's exactly the red number on the note is exactly the same number as the one in the archives of the Reserve Bank. Now, I've had notification from them that they have the same, their note is exactly the same as mine. They've seen my note, I haven't seen theirs, but they assure me, I said, well, how did that come about? But I've never seen the same red number on a specimen note before.
Might be fresh out of China.
No, no. I think what it was, I've got, they said one come out of the first lot for the first printing and one come out of the second printing of the note. And what I assume from that is I've got the one from the first printing and they've said, oh, we haven't got one of these for our records. You know, we should have one of these for our records. And I reckon they've got one out of the second printing. That's my version of it. But they tell me that one is in the first printing and one is in the second printing. I've got that on paper. But, you know.
Didn't they also say that with slab coins, within a particular grade, they are also graded A, B, C and D? And so in big coin shows in America when they were on, they would go around people who had the ability to grade within a particular, let's say, a MS64, within that grade there were subgrades, and people were buying the coins slab within a particular grade.
And just to add to the joy of it all, is that apparently the slabs are being copied in China.
Yeah, well, that's a
So,
way.
you know, like the whole thing's ridiculous.
And they're very good, because when they do it, they make sure that they've got quality control. They make sure the hologram is correct, they make sure that the serial number fits properly. Now, they look through the records and make sure it all fits nicely.
How about the little dots round the penny or something for a 1930 penny?
All of that sort of stuff. There was I saw a video that I was talking about yesterday. I saw a program a couple of years ago, a documentary on TV. They were talking to some guy that ran a factory making copies, replicas of coins. And he was selling them as replicas, he wasn't selling them as originals in China. But he would, you know, if you wanted a particular coin and you wanted it to look like it was from 450 years old, their quality control was so good that they could make it. It wouldn't look like 500 years old, wouldn't look 400 years old, it would look the 450 you were after. That's all. He was proud of that. And there's nothing, and he's selling them as replicas, that's fine and dandy.
Well, they do.
But there's nothing to stop Ross buying it and selling it later as an original.
They do that with your teeth too.
Sorry?
They age your teeth when they get in there too.
Wasn't there another situation where to slab a coin cost X amount of dollars, but to slab, let's say, 10 coins cost a lower amount of dollars?
That's right.
So some dealers were getting not common coins, but also rands slab, because it was cheaper to get a whole bundle slab. And this was generating another class of slab coins.
Yeah.
But I do remember George being really, really unimpressed with the fact that in Greece it was the normal thing to buy raw coins or banknotes, send them off to be slabbed, and then put a big price increase on them just because they've been slabbed. And I agree with him. To me, what you're buying is the item, not the bit of plastic around it.
But a further item, we've got to get partying, I know, but I can only think of those little things that come up at times, is that one of the buyers of gold at the Noble sale and spending big money just absolutely admits he can't grade, and he's a dealer. He can't grade, so anything that he buys, he sends it over to be slabbed. Like we're talking about guys spending tens of thousands of dollars.
And the other thing is, if it does get overgraded, he can't tax on my And if it's undergraded, he can send it back.
Anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, no, look at it.
I've got one slab cord.
I've got one slab
One for the day.
just to have one for the, it was a cheap $5, that was it.
Yeah. I think the one I got was about $25, $30 or something.
I don't like them, but the thing is, I can see why people do it, you know. If you're, like us old fogies who grew up with one sort of lifestyle. But the younger people, they've grown up, they're used to the internet, they're used to all this sort of stuff. They're buying off the internet, and if they're buying off the internet, there's no way they're going to go to Kazakhstan, London, and somewhere in South America, all in the 1 week, to have to look at these coins they're after. But if they're slab, they can sort of take a punt to get there, but they're okay.